What if I told you champagne started as a wine so dangerous? Cellar workers wore protective masks just to survive bottling it. Or that the world's most popular pizza topping isn't actually Italian at all. In this video, 4 things you've probably eaten or drunk this month, and the disasters, forgotten barrels, and desperate substitutes that created every single one of them. Monks trying to destroy the exact thing that made them famous. A sauce so bad it got left in a cellar for 2 years, on purpose. A famine that accidentally invented a luxury dessert. For accidents. For things that shouldn't exist, and somehow became some of the most recognizable foods on the planet. For a long stretch of its early history, one of the world's most celebrated drinks was considered a disaster. Something monks were actively trying to get rid of, not perfect. The Champagne region of France has been making wine for centuries. Flat, still wine, the kind everyone expected wine to be. The region's winters, though, are cold. Cold enough that fermentation, driven by yeast converting sugar into alcohol, slows down and sometimes stops completely before it's actually finished. Winemakers bottle the wine anyway, believing the process is done. Then spring arrives. Temperatures rise. And inside the sealed bottles, the leftover yeast wakes back up, restarting fermentation, except now trapped inside glass with nowhere for the resulting carbon dioxide to go. Pressure builds inside every bottle in the cellar. Some of them can't hold it. Bottles start exploding, genuinely, physically shattering, sometimes setting off a chain reaction where the shock wave triggers the bottle next to it, then the next. Cellar workers in this era are known to wear thick masks, closer to fencing gear than kitchen equipment, specifically to protect their faces while working among the wine. Monks and winemakers in the region take to calling it le vin du diable, the devil's wine, for the way it seemed to destroy itself and injure people almost at random. Among the monks trying to solve this problem is Dom Perignon, a cellar master at the Abbey of Hautevillers, whose actual, documented work focuses on trying to prevent the bubbles entirely. Better grape selection, stronger bottles, more consistent technique, anything to stop this flaw from happening again. The popular legend that credits him with joyfully inventing champagne on purpose is, by most historians' accounts, closer to marketing myth than documented fact. But not everyone treats the bubbles as pure failure. Somewhere along the way, someone actually drinks a bottle that survived and finds the effervescence isn't unpleasant at all. It's lively, different, genuinely enjoyable in a way flat wine isn't. Over the following decades, technique slowly shifts from trying to eliminate the bubbles to learning how to control them safely. Stronger glass, better corks, more predictable fermentation, so the pressure builds evenly instead of catastrophically. By the 1700s, sparkling wine from this region isn't an embarrassing flaw anymore. It's a specific, sought-after style, eventually protected by law to carry the region's own name. What started as a defect so dangerous that cellar workers needed protective gear becomes one of the most recognizable luxury drinks in the world. Its defining feature, the exact thing generations of monks had been desperately trying to stop. One of the most widely used sauces in the world sat forgotten in a cellar for years, because the first attempt at it was considered a complete failure. The story starts with a British nobleman, Lord Sandys, returning home to Worcester, England, after time spent in Bengal, India. He's brought back a taste for something he encountered there, a pungent, fermented sauce, built around fish and spices, made in a style entirely unfamiliar to English kitchens. Wanting more of it, he takes the recipe to 2 local chemists, John Leah and William Parents. Men who run a shop dealing in medicines and chemical preparations, not a kitchen built for sauce making. They follow the recipe as best they understand it. anchovies, vinegar, salt, tamarind, and a mix of spices, all combined and left to sit. The result is bad. Genuinely bad, sharp, harsh, overwhelmingly fishy in a way that doesn't resemble anything appetizing. Rather than dump it out, Leah and parents do the practical thing. They move the barrel down into the cellar, mark it as a failure, and move on to other work. It sits there, untouched, forgotten, more or less, for a long stretch of time. Some tellings say close to 2 years. At some point, someone clearing out the cellar comes across the barrel again, and, likely more out of curiosity than expectation, decides to taste it before throwing it away. It's transformed. What was harsh and overpowering has mellowed completely. The fish has broken down and integrated into the liquid around it. The vinegar has softened, and everything left behind is deep, savory, and complex in a way the original batch never was. Months sitting in a dark, cool cellar had done exactly what aging does to other fermented foods, slowly changing raw, unpleasant ingredients into something balanced, through processes the chemists hadn't been trying to control on purpose. Leah and parents realize what they're holding isn't a failed batch anymore. They bottle it, name it after their city, and start selling it commercially in the 1830s. It spreads fast, first through Britain, then internationally, eventually becoming a defining ingredient in dishes as different as a Bloody Mary and a classic Caesar salad dressing. What began as a recipe 2 chemists got wrong and nearly threw away becomes one of the most recognizable sauces on the planet. Its exact formula still kept a closely guarded secret by the company today. One of Europe's most refined sweets may have started as an emergency substitute for bread, invented during famine. Like a lot of centuries-old food origins, this one has more than one claimant. Cities in Germany, Italy, and Spain all have their own version of the story, each insisting theirs came first. This is one of the most repeated tellings. The setting is a medieval city gripped by a severe famine. Harvests have failed. The usual supply of wheat, the base of nearly every household's daily bread, has run out entirely, with no new grain expected for months. Bread is not a luxury in this period. It's the primary source of calories for most of the population. Without it, a famine turns from serious to genuinely deadly, fast. City authorities and bakers scramble for anything that could be ground down and baked into something resembling bread to keep people fed through the worst of the shortage. Almonds turn out to be one of the few food stores still available in real quantity. Kept in warehouses, not depleted the way grain has been, since almonds aren't a dietary staple the way wheat is. Bakers start grinding the almonds down, combining them with sugar, also available, unlike flour, to bind a mixture into something that can be shaped and baked. What comes out isn't bread. It doesn't rise, it doesn't have the texture of a loaf, and it's sweet rather than plain. But it's food, dense, calorie-rich, and enough to keep people from starving while the city waits for the next harvest. The famine eventually passes, and normal bread supplies return. But the almond paste doesn't disappear along with the emergency that created it. Bakers and confectioners keep making it, no longer as a substitute for anything, but as its own product, refined over time with better sugar, finer grinding, and eventually elaborate molding into fruit shapes, figures, and decorative sculptures for wealthy households and royal courts. By the Renaissance, this almond paste is considered a luxury item across much of Europe. Served to nobility, shaped into elaborate centerpieces associated with wealth rather than survival. Whichever city's version of the story is the true original, the pattern repeats across all of them. A famine desperate enough to force a substitute for bread, and a substitute that turned out to be good enough to outlive the emergency that created it by several centuries. The single most popular pizza topping in America isn't actually Italian. It was invented by immigrants trying to recreate something they couldn't fully replicate. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, waves of Italian immigrants, many from the southern regions, Calabria and Campania in particular, settle in cities like New York, bringing food traditions with them, including a range of dry-cured, spiced pork sausages, soppressata, nduja, various regional salamis, each specific to a village or province back home. Recreating these exactly isn't simple. The particular breeds of pig, the specific climate used for curing, the exact spice blends and local peppers. All of it was tied to a place that immigrant butchers have just left behind. Butchers working in Italian-American neighborhoods start adapting instead of exactly replicating. Different cuts of pork and beef available locally. Different paprika and chili blends, sourced from whatever suppliers exist in the new country. Different curing conditions. Since most butchers aren't working in the same caves and cellars their ancestors used back in Italy. What comes out of this adaptation is a spiced, cured sausage that resembles its Italian ancestors in spirit, but isn't quite the same as any single traditional Italian product. Smokier in some versions. Softer, easier to slice thin. A specific balance of paprika and heat that doesn't map exactly onto any one regional Italian sausage. Butchers start calling it pepperoni, borrowing from the Italian word for bell peppers, pepperoni, even though the sausage itself has nothing to do with peppers directly. It's a naming choice that doesn't quite make sense in Italian, but sticks anyway in English. Around the same period, pizza itself is making the same journey. Carried by the same immigrant communities, adapted the same way for local ingredients and local tastes, moving from a regional Neapolitan dish towards something that will eventually become distinctly American. Sliced thin, pepperoni curls and crisps slightly under pizza oven heat, releasing its paprika red fat across the surface of the pie, a visual and flavor effect that other cured meats don't quite replicate the same way. By the mid-1900s, it's not just one topping among many. It becomes the default, the topping people mean when they just say pizza with no other description. Today, it's estimated that pepperoni is used on more pizzas in the United States than every other topping combined. A sausage that doesn't traditionally exist in Italy at all, born entirely out of immigrant butchers trying, and not quite managing, to recreate something from home.
Thanks for watching!